Welcome to Classic Storytime Hub. Tonight, we journey into the mysterious jungles of Borneo through H.G. Wells' chilling tale, In the Avu Observatory. This version has been carefully reimagined and rewritten to bring you a fresh, suspenseful experience, crafted to keep you on edge from the very first moment.
High above the jungle of Borneo, the Avu Observatory clung to the mountain's edge like a lonely sentinel. To the north, the jagged rim of an ancient crater loomed, its silhouette a black wound against the endless indigo sky. From the observatory's small dome, the slopes fell away in dizzying plunges, swallowed by the restless shadows of the tropical forest below. 50 yards down the path stood the modest dwelling of the astronomers, and beyond that, the scattered huts of their native attendants. Tonight, however, the chief observer, Thaddy, lay feverish and weak, leaving his assistant, Woodhouse, to face the night alone. He paused at the threshold, lantern in hand, and let the silence press against him. The stillness was broken only by distant laughter from the huts, or the sudden unnerving cry of some unseen creature deep within the jungle's tangled heart. Moths and strange insects drifted out of the darkness, circling his light like pale phantoms. Woodhouse's thoughts wandered to the mysteries hidden beneath the canopy, unknown species, unanswered questions, discoveries waiting in the black labyrinth of trees. The lantern's glow painted his face in gold, a fragile flame against the vast palette of lavender skies and consuming shadow. Mosquitoes swarmed, their bites warded off only by the pungent ointment smeared across his skin. He sighed, knowing the long hours of rigid watching that awaited him. The observatory was no grand institution, just a temporary shell, primitive tools, and a telescope perched upon its stone pillar. Yet within its turning dome, the heavens revealed themselves. Stars tracked by clockwork gears, the roof slit following the eye of the instrument as it swept across infinity. Inside, the darkness was deliberate, a cocoon that made the stars blaze brighter, sharper, more merciless. Woodhouse stretched his weary limbs, steadied his breath, and stepped into the chamber where silence and starlight would keep him company, and perhaps something else.
The lantern flared as Woodhouse stepped into the circular chamber, its glows scattering the darkness for a heartbeat before retreating into the corners like shadows unwilling to die. The great machine loomed in silence, its black frames swallowing the light until the room seemed once more claimed by night. Above, the slit in the dome revealed a slice of sky, an abyss of transparent blue where 6 stars burned with tropical brilliance, their pale gleam sliding across the telescope's dark barrel like ghostly fire. Woodhouse turned the wheels, one after another, and the massive cylinder groaned into motion, swinging slowly toward its new target. He adjusted the roof, checked the finder, and set the clockwork ticking, a steady mechanical heartbeat against the silence. The heat pressed down on him, forcing him to shed his jacket, and he dragged the awkward wooden seat into place. 4 hours of rigid watching awaited him. With a weary sigh, he surrendered himself to the mysteries above. Outside, the jungle whispered. A cry of pain or alarm echoed from some unseen beast, followed by the distant voices of the Malay and Dayak servants. Their chanting rose briefly, strange and rhythmic, before fading into silence. Then the night closed in, deeper, heavier, until the stillness itself seemed alive. The lantern sputtered, dimmed, and finally died, leaving the observatory swallowed in blackness. The clockwork ticked on. A mosquito whined angrily, thwarted by the ointment on his skin. Woodhouse shifted uncomfortably as the telescope's slow drift forced him to move. His eyes fixed on a cluster of stars in the Milky Way, One of them, his chief had claimed, showed a curious color. It was not part of the official program, but perhaps that was why Woodhouse leaned into it with such intensity. The circle of the telescope's field consumed him, a vast blue void powdered with countless stars, each burning against the infinite black. As he gazed, he felt himself dissolving, weightless, incorporeal, adrift in the ether of space. The faint red star he studied glowed at an immeasurable distance, and for a moment he was no longer a man in a jungle observatory, but a soul suspended in the endless dark.
Without warning, the stars vanished. A sudden sweep of blackness crossed the slit, then cleared, as though the heavens themselves had blinked. Woodhouse frowned. Strange. Must have been a bird, he muttered. But before the thought settled, the telescope shuddered violently, as if struck by an unseen hand. A thunderous pounding rattled the dome overhead, echoing like blows from some colossal fist. The great instrument swung free, stars scattering from his view as the roof trembled. "Good Lord, what's happening?" His voice cracked in the silence. A vast shadow writhed at the opening above, wings, or something like wings, thrashing against the aperture. Then, as suddenly as it had come, the slit cleared, and the Milky Way spilled its soft glow once more. Yet inside the dome, the blackness thickened, alive with scraping sounds that crawled across the roof. Woodhouse leapt to his feet, drenched in sweat, his body trembling. Was the creature outside, or had it slipped in with him? The telescope swayed again, jolted by a passing shape. He flinched, throwing up his arm. No doubt remained. It was inside, clinging to the roof, watching, waiting. For a long frozen moment he stood in stupefied horror, then claws raked across the dome, and a leathery wing swept past his face, catching a glimmer of starlight on skin slick as oiled leather. His water bottle crashed to the floor, shattering in the dark. The sense of some monstrous bird or bat hovering just beyond reach was unbearable. He fumbled for a match, desperate to see. The flare hissed to life, painting the chamber in ghostly light. For an instant he saw it, a vast wing arcing toward him, fur glistening gray-brown. Then the blow came, hard across his temple. The match died, and the lantern smashed as he reeled backward. Blood streamed hot across his cheek. Another strike followed, claws raking for his eyes. Instinct took over. He rolled onto his face, shielding his vision, and crawled blindly toward the shelter of the telescope, the only barrier between him and the nightmare that had invaded the stars. The blow came again, hard across his back, ripping fabric and driving him forward. The creature slammed against the roof, shaking the dome with its weight. Woodhouse scrambled, wedging himself between the wooden seat and the eyepiece, twisting so that only his legs were exposed. If nothing else, he could kick. The beast thrashed in the dark, claws scraping, wings beating, until it clung to the telescope itself, making the gears rattle like bones. When it swept near, he lashed out wildly, his foot striking something soft and alive. Terror surged through him. Whatever it was massive, strong enough to swing the telescope like a toy. For an instant, starlight outlined its head. Ears sharp and upright, a jagged crest between them, the silhouette as large as a mastiff's. Panic broke his restraint. He shouted for help, his voice echoing uselessly into the night. The thing descended again. His hand brushed against something on the floor, the shattered remains of the water bottle. At the same moment, teeth clamped onto his ankle, piercing deep. He screamed, kicking with his free leg, desperate to break loose. His fingers closed around a velvety ear, hot and alive, and with the jagged glass neck of the bottle he struck down with all his strength. The crash rang out, followed by another blow, then a savage stabbing motion into the dark where he imagined its face must be. The teeth released. He tore his leg free and kicked hard, feeling the sickening crunch of fur and bone beneath his boot. Pain seared his arm as claws raked across it, but he struck again, his weapon sinking into damp fur. Then silence. only the rasp of claws dragging across the floor, the heavy scrape of a body retreating into the shadows. Woodhouse lay gasping, blood warm across his cheek, his breath ragged. The lantern was gone, the chamber swallowed in black. Above him the slit of sky glowed faintly, a rectangle of blue dusted with stars, the telescope's silhouette cutting across it. He waited, frozen, listening to the unbearable sound of licking in the dark. Time stretched, endless, each second a lifetime.
Was it coming back? Woodhouse fumbled in his pocket, fingers closing on a single match, the last. He struck it desperately, but the damp floor betrayed him. The spark hissed, spat, and died. Darkness swallowed him whole once more. He cursed the night, cursed the silence, cursed his own helplessness. Somewhere above the creature stirred, wings beating faintly, disturbed by the failed flare. He forced a laugh, brittle and hollow. "Time," he called, as though mocking the beast. But it did not descend. Perhaps the broken bottle had wounded it. Perhaps it was waiting. Pain throbbed in his ankle, warm blood seeping. Could he even stand? Outside, the jungle was still, the servants deaf to his cries, blind to the chaos that had battered the dome. He braced himself as the wings flapped again, his elbow striking the seat and sending it crashing to the floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot. He cursed the noise, cursed the darkness, cursed the endless suspense. Then the patch of starlight above began to sway. Was he fainting? He clenched his fists, ground his teeth, forcing himself to hold together. The stars, Sagittarius, southeast. He tried to orient himself, to find the door. If he could reach it, he might escape. "Come on then," he shouted into the void. "If you won't strike, I will." The black shape shifted, climbing the dome, blotting out the stars one by one. The skylight shrank, the light narrowing as though he were sliding down a funnel into nothingness. Fear ebbed strangely, replaced by a sinking sensation, a thirst that burned his throat, yet left him unwilling to drink. The stars dimmed, the darkness deepened. And then, daylight. He blinked, dazed, the jungle gone. A Dyak servant hovered over him, staring with uneasy curiosity. Another face appeared, Thaddeus, upside down, as though the world itself had tilted. Then clarity returned. His head rested on Thaddeus' knee, brandy pressed to his lips. The telescope loomed nearby, its eyepiece smeared with red. Memory flooded back, the wings, the claws, the blood. The night had not been a dream. It had been real, terribly, monstrously real.
"You've turned this observatory into a battlefield," Thaddeus muttered, surveying the wreckage. The Dyak boy mixed egg with brandy, pressing it into Woodhouse's hands. He sat up with a wince, his ankle bound, his arm bandaged, his face raw with cuts. Shattered glass glittered across the floor, stained red. The telescope seat lay overturned, and by the far wall a dark pool spread like a shadow that refused to dry. Through the open door, the mountain's gray summit stood against a sky blazing with daylight. "Bah!" Woodhouse spat. "Looks as though someone slaughtered a calf in here. Get me out of this mess." But then memory returned. The thing, the struggle, the blood. He turned sharply to Thaddeus. "What was it? The creature I fought?" Thaddeus' eyes narrowed. "You know that better than I, but don't torment yourself now. Drink." His tone was calm, but curiosity flickered beneath it. He kept Woodhouse quiet until the man was tucked into bed, fortified with brandy and meat extract. Only then did they speak again. "It was like a bat," Woodhouse said slowly, "but larger than any I have ever imagined. Short, sharp ears, soft fur, wings like leather stretched over bone. Its teeth were small but viciously sharp. Its jaw wasn't strong enough to break my ankle outright, but it nearly did." "Nearly," Thaddeus nodded grimly. "And the claws," Woodhouse added, shuddering.
It struck with them freely. That's all I know. We were acquainted, but not exactly on speaking terms. Thaddy leaned back. The Dyaks whisper about a great Kalugo, a clangatang, whatever that means. They say there are two kinds, big and small, and something else with a name like gobble. All fly at night. I've seen flying foxes and lemurs here, but none so large. Woodhouse gave a weary smile. There are more things in heaven and earth, Thaddy, though I know you hate the quotation, and certainly more in the forests of Borneo than our philosophies allow. If the jungle intends to reveal more of its secrets, I'd prefer it chose a time when I'm alone in the observatory at night.
And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey, if there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.